Oh, I'm sorry. So you go, it goes dun 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 dun, and I go. Okay. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on your demand on your favorite streaming channel.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 10 million views.
We are proud that we have more than 1,000 new subscribers in the last month, and that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
Over 500,000 of you have watched this show in the last 90 days. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Thursday, February 6th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary of our Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ community and broader community.
In 2025, more than 100 anchors will host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Alex Morash. Alex has served as editor-in-chief of Options Magazine, media director of the National LGBTQ Task Force, and press secretary for the Florida Democratic Party. Alex, Dolphin Democrats, is holding its annual elections meeting on February 12th. Tell me what's happening.
Sure thing. The Dolphin Democrats will hold their annual elections meeting on Wednesday, February 12th at the Pride Center in Wilton Manors, Florida. Check-in begins at 6:30 and the meeting starts at 7 p.m. Members will vote for the board of directors, including the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and three directors. The meeting will also feature municipal endorsements for the March 11th election. Joining the Dolphin Democrats is one way that you can work to fight for LGBTQ rights, and they are the largest LGBTQ political caucus in Florida. For more details, you can visit dolphindems.org or maybe ask their current vice president. Adrianna, is there anything else we should know about this? Can anyone go to this particular meeting?
So anyone can attend the meeting, but you do have to be a member to vote.
How much does it cost to be a member?
My God, I don't know. Look at the website. It's $50 right now. $50 for the year. It was just a little bit of nothing.
It just seems like it's so important to have this happening right now.
It
People really, if you weren't involved before, if you had an aversion to being involved, now's the time to get involved, to help protect yourself in the community.
Yeah, I haven't been to a Dolphin Dems meeting in a few years, but they tend to be a pretty big sized crowd and they tend to get a lot of good speakers.
Yeah, I mean, Alfredo always has the right people coming, all of the politicians,
Fantastic.
you know, especially the ones that are LGBTQ friendly. And our endorsement process is, you know, one probably one of the best ones that there is.
Next to say.
So yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Dolphin Democrats annual elections meeting on February 12th. Let's welcome anchor Ryan Hurst. He is the Director of Individual Giving for the National LGBTQ Task Force, one of the world's largest and most important LGBTQ plus social justice organizations. Ryan Plays of Wilton is bringing a happy ending, running from February 13th through March 16th. Tell me what's happening.
Plays of Wilton presents a happy ending from February 13th to March 16th at the Foundry. Written and directed by Ronnie Larson, the play follows a straight man's unexpected encounter with gay masseur, unraveling tensions, secrets, and surprises. Blending comedy, mystery, and eroticism, the production stars Sam Lance and Jeff Freitag. This gripping show promises twists at every turn. Tickets start at $27.50. For showtimes and details, visit RonnieLarson.com. I visited RonnieLarson.com earlier to learn more about this production. And I have to say, it looks really intriguing, and also the fact that it contains nudity is,
Adds a little.
a little pizzazz, a little spice.
I think it sounds very gripping, and I think that more nudity should be encouraged in our play than the country.
Well, loosen up that grip and go watch the show.
Oh my gosh, isn't this the one where they said that the guy's 6'7" or something like that?
6'7".
Oh my Lord. What's your statement you said?
As Vivian Westwood would say,
Right.
Never mind the 6 feet. I want to hear about the 7 inches.
Oh my goodness. Well, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Plays of Wilton's A Happy Ending from February 13th to March 16th. Let's welcome anchor Paul Thomas. He is a member of the LGBTQ plus advisory committee to the City of Miami Beach, on the board of directors for the Point Foundation, and on the endorsement committee for SAVE. Paul, conversations are being happening to help shape support for Black MSM. Tell me what's happening.
I'm really happy to talk about this fantastic study funded by the NIH on the social determinants of health in the South. We're having a public health crisis in the South of America where HIV has exploded. 1 in 3 18 to 30-year-old Black MSM have contracted HIV. This contraction rate is beyond what's happening anywhere else in America. The CDC and the NIH said you need to put together something and get down there and fix this problem. So HPTN 096, you'll be hearing a lot about that. It's the second part of HPTN 055, which was U equals U. Everybody remembers? U equals U. This next part is really focusing on what's happening in the South systemically, where the HIV rates continue to explode. And so we're really excited. We have our first two, I'm the executive chair of the coalition for this study, and we have our first 2 listening sessions coming up. And it's really exciting. We need 10 participants. You get paid for your time, probably about $75 to come. We only ask questions for about 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes, so that we can collect data, send it way up the chain to the people who know how to run the numbers, and they're going to hopefully come back with some great solutions for the South. They're really looking forward to South Florida because it's Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and because we have such a high LGBTQ population, that we can really make some substantive change here health-wise, and then we can spread that around the rest of the South. And so I'm really happy to be here tonight talking about it. If you're interested in being a participant in the listening session, please just email, go to the email on the flyer and let us know so you can be vetted. People have to be vetted to participate. So that's new and exciting. It's the first time, and it's the largest study of this size. It's never happened before in America. So,
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Adrianna Tender, the program manager with Trans Inclusive Group and owner of Tender Loving Care, Trans Mentoring. She serves on the National Board of Governors of the Human Rights Campaign and is vice president of the Dolphin Democrats. I think they might have an event coming up soon. and on the board of the Black LGBTQ Liberation. Adrianna, the second annual Sisters in Health and Unity Townhall is returning on March 10th. Tell me all about it.
Well, the second annual Sisters in Health and Unity Town Hall will take place on March 10th from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 at the Center for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale. Hosted by us at Trans Inclusive Group, Positive People Network, Blink, and Love Empowerment Group, the event focuses on the health of Black women and women of color, this will be hosted on Women and Girls HIV Awareness Day. Attendees can expect a dynamic panel discussion, entertainment, food, and networking opportunities with community organizations. This impactful gathering aims to foster dialogue and support for women's health. For more details, please visit our social media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Trans Inclusive Group.
You know, I'm just so glad to see you guys doing this because, like, I've just been seeing so many things in the news right now. It just makes me so angry. But then when I get to see Trans Inclusive Group and other groups in South Florida fighting for trans rights, it reminds me that there's still hope and still people fighting the good fight. So I just am so happy to see this.
It's so important that our community takes care of ourselves, especially right now. People think that this is the worst that it's ever been for LGBTQ people. We've been fighting this fight for decades, and we've learned lessons from it. I think it's really important that we remember that we have each other's backs, that we are going to be here for one another, and it's going to become more important that as we lose institutional support from the federal government, that we lean on each other and on local organizations to support one another.
Absolutely. Now more than ever, that community is so important. Really having that place, that safe place to go, to be able to network, to be you, to take a breath, to learn about resources, learn about, what might be coming up that you can help with. It's really important. I think it empowers people as opposed to just being in the fear of the headline.
Yeah, and I mean, we had this conversation last year, and it was very impactful. This was one of the times that the transgender community got together with our cis counterparts, and we had discussions about sisterhood and togetherness and having each other's back, as well as social determinants of health and social justice issues and things of that nature. A lot of times, specifically here in Wilton, when we're talking about HIV numbers and things like that, they focus more on gay men and not necessarily on transgender people. And the rise of HIV numbers in Black women, specifically here in Florida, as you know,
yes,
have increased. So we're really great that we're able to get together with a lot of these cisgendered organizations and Trans Inclusive Group to have this impactful conversations.
Absolutely.
Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the second annual Sisters in Health and Unity Town Hall on March 10th.
Now let's dive deep into the big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Adrianna Tender, and let's queer up lesbian and queer women. Lesbian cop faced years of degrading harassment, wins huge court settlement. A lesbian police lieutenant has won $750,000 settlement after suing a New Jersey township over alleged discrimination by its former police chief. Constance Crea accused ex-Piscataway police chief Thomas Mosier of persistent sexual and sexual orientation harassment. Her lawsuit detailed Mosier's degrading comments, including telling her to doll herself up and asking, "Who's mowing the grass?" A reference to her relationship with her wife. Mosier allegedly promoted a straight colleague to a position so he could stare at her in her yoga pants, and once grabbed his genitals in front of Crea while moaning. Crea's was one of 6 complaints against Mosier. Crea said she didn't report the harassment in fear of retaliation. In 2022, Mosier retired, and Crea too left the department. As part of the settlement, Crea agreed to never seek employment with Piscataway again. The lawsuit also alleged that heterosexual female officers were treated differently, with some allowed to work from home during the pandemic, while Crea was required to be in person. Mosier, who retired in 2022, also faces lawsuits alleging racial discrimination. I think that people get what's coming to them, and I'm glad that she's getting that $750,000.
Look, I think it's an important reminder that this is why we need to pass the Equality Act. People don't remember that we as LGBTQ people in most states and most communities around the United States can still legally be fired, discriminated against in employment because of our sexual orientation and gender identity. Unfortunately, that's not going to get better with the new administration. So it's really important to remember that we need to, again, protect one another. And it's unfortunate because, yes, I'm so glad she won the $750,000 settlement, but she also lost her career.
Yeah.
They asked her not to work for the city again. How ridiculous. I hope they asked him not to work for the city. I'm sure he's still getting his retirement benefits. It's just, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it was shocking. You were reading the story and I was thinking, mow the grass. I think maybe I was 16 when people used to, these are grown professional people. This is how you're talking to a colleague. This is how you're talking to someone at work. And then when we talk about educating people and we talk about it, having workplace protections, they try to make us out to be the bad guy. But this is not acceptable. People should not have to go through that type of discrimination just to go to work. Just to go to work, do your job, be yourself, get your pay, take care of your family. These things happen regularly, and it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Are any of us really surprised to read the story? How many stories do we need to read of police being vulgar, racist, sexist, homophobic, costing their towns hundreds of thousands of dollars because they're either doing this sort of illegal action or brutalizing everyday Americans? This is just a problem that is so much more than just I understand hearing about the Equality Act, but we do not train or have a police force in this country that in all acts like anything other than gangsters and mafia guys half the time. And this is further proof of that when I see this. How are we supposed to trust law enforcement when we know that they're going to be acting like that? They're going to be grabbing their crotches, saying hi to their female colleagues, and this is nowhere near as bad as some of the stuff that we've seen with police when their emails have been uncovered and the awful things that they share with one another. I'm just so tired of seeing police act like this.
Why are you surprised when we have a whole president in office that says, grab him by the pussy?
Yeah.
That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. Queer News Tonight.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up business. Let's play Grindr's Tap or Block with Troye Sivan and tour dancers. Troye Sivan is bringing Rush into 2025 with a cheeky new Grindr campaign inspired by Madonna's Truth or Dare. In Grindr presents Tap or Block with Troye Sivan, the singer, and his Something to Give Each Other tour dancers play a game inspired by queer dating culture. The rules? Sivan reads the scenario, and the group responds with either tap, meaning yes, or block, meaning no, to questions like hotel sex, tap or block. The campaign nods to Madonna's Truth or Dare documentary, which famously captured candid moments between the Queen of Pop and her dancers on the 1990 Blonde Ambition tour. Sivan's version is a modern, unapologetically queer take exploring dating and hookup culture in the digital age. The full video featuring Troye Sivan and his dancers backstage is now live. I think my first thought was Troye Sivan alive during the Blonde Ambition tour in 1990? But at the same time, I can watch Troye and his dancers doing almost anything, especially if they're not wearing their shirts.
The sad thing is I'd tap Troye Sivan on Grindr and then he'd block me, so.
I was just happy to see Madonna's, this even being brought back. I remember when that came out, and I'm of a certain age, and it was scandalous, but it also gave us an opportunity to have so many conversations that hadn't been had, that needed to be had. So everyone was dying from AIDS, remember, in 1990. There were a lot of conversations that had never been had. We talk about things commonplace nowadays that were never, ever discussed back then. And to see this being able to come back and be reimagined for a younger generation, to me, is fantastic. Madonna, she's like that artist that never, ever really goes away.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Ryan Hurst, and let's queer up the USA View. Is Robby Starbuck the anti-DEI David to the LGBTQ Goliath? Donald Trump's second term has brought renewed attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, DEI, with Robby Starbuck leading the charge. A former Hollywood music video director, Starbuck is known for opposing DEI, queer rights, and what he calls woke leftism. He directed The War on Children, an anti-LGBTQ documentary promoted by Elon Musk. Since June 2024, Starbuck has pressured brands like John Deere and Lowe's to drop DEI initiatives. While he claims victory, reports suggest many companies made only minor changes. Starbuck also falsely links gender identity to chemical exposure and has attacked LGBTQ families, including claims that Megan Fox committed child abuse by apparently, quote, forcing her children to wear girls' clothes in a social media post, which has since been deleted. Now with Trump in power, Starbuck has an ally. Trump has already signed an order eliminating DEI from military and placed government DEI staff on leave. He's also targeting birthright citizenship, a move that ironically could impact Starbuck himself. However, there is no denying the dramatic effect Starbuck has had on influencing some of the world's largest corporations and their diversity programs. He continues to be a developing story for LGBTQ activists and our entire community. To your point, Alex, in the previous story, it's not just the police that have this toxic culture. It's all kinds of institutions, not only in our government, but in corporations. And that's why diversity, equity, and inclusion programming is so important to break down those toxic behaviors that, permeate throughout our culture. It's so disappointing to me to see someone pick a marginalized community to target in such a heinous way. I did a little research on Starbuck before coming to the program today. His parents are Cuban immigrants, so that's why he would be directly impacted by the ending of birthright citizenship. His parents are not U.S. citizens, and he also claims to be a Catholic, which I am also a practicing proud Catholic member of the church. The word Catholic means universal. And one of my favorite hymns that we sing in the church is "All Are Welcome Here." There is no way you can be part of a universal church and not welcome everyone. It's not just the earth. If there are aliens out there, the Catholic Church is supposed to be for them too. It is a welcoming church. And it's disappointing to me to see someone who claims to have that faith, be so mean and cold-hearted towards any marginalized community.
I think it's sad, and I think a lot of people are ignorant about what DEI really is. I think a lot of people see DEI, and some people think that it has something to do with specifically the LGBTQ community. And people don't realize if you are anything other than a cisgendered white male, then it encompasses you. If you're a woman, if you're disabled, if you're black, if you're any minority, a straight white woman, everything under the sun is on DEI. I have friends right now who I was very surprised that I shouldn't say was very surprised it was going to happen, but just recently, as of yesterday, that are in the military, told me that they had conversations with whomever their bosses were, and it went cold. We haven't heard any word. So, it's impacting every single person.
I was thinking as you were reading the story, and I was thinking, how small is this guy's brain power? That this is the only thing that he has to talk about. Everything was so contradictory. It's like he's a music video guy who's attacking gay people. That doesn't make any sense. And the fact that you don't know what you're talking about, based on what you're saying, right? But you're just running around talking, and I'm thinking, is there something wrong with him? There's nothing else that he could be focused on. Like, he doesn't have a dream or an aspiration. Like, why is he focused on people that he clearly doesn't understand? He's thrown out a lot of misinformation and incorrect information. And it's just like this hatred. I'm like, something happened to this guy. I think something happened to him. Something must have happened to him, because who would take the time out of their to spend their life and try to make a career out of trying to harm other people? I don't understand this.
Well, it's just the grift culture of the right-wing wannabe celebrity. You know,
Right.
a lot of people are like, is this man the David versus the Goliath? I'm like, he that probably has almost no influence on these corporations.
Exactly.
I've been warning the LGBTQ community through the pieces in the Advocate magazine and talking to LGBTQ orgs to not trust their relationships with corporations. Corporations that best are
Right.
fair weather friends, and they're taking their masks off now. They were waiting to see what happened this election cycle, but we all started to see that they were pulling back a little bit.
Right.
Now that their guy is empowered, like, oh, we don't need to pretend anymore. We can just light up the fires and show people our true colors. And I say, well, you know what, Mr. Starbuck, thank you for helping us unmask these villains, because that's what most of these corporations really are at the end of the day.
I mean, if you're not talking to everyone in the workplace, then you're setting up a discriminatory workplace. So you're setting up a workplace where people can be harmed. You're setting up a workplace like this woman who was the police officer. Like, you're setting up that type of culture. Is that what these corporations are saying to people? That when you come to work here, you're not going to be safe?
But haven't we ever been that
going to
safe
be
in these
discriminated?
workplaces?
Is that what they're saying to people? Like, I don't understand, because they're not saying we're going to educate people. We're going to make sure you're safe. We're going to make sure you can focus on your job. And you can come to work and do your job and do the best job you can. They're saying we're going to make everyone really unsafe. There's no protections for you when you come to work for John Deere or for whatever this other company. Why would a
Well,
corporation
we've
say
seen
that? That makes no
corporations do
sense
this
to me.
for decades. Enron used to have a policy of the bottom 10% always got fired. Now, what happened with Enron there? It encouraged all sorts of cheating within the organization.
Right.
Wells Fargo did similar.
Went to prison. Yeah.
They were with brownouts in California. It literally affected everyday people's lives.
Right.
Wells Fargo did similar things. They ended up having workers who were stealing from customers in order to try and make their quotas. The Federal Reserve actually had to step in and redo their entire board. We've seen that companies don't care about workers.
That's right.
DEI was always just this attempt to just sort of do a little bit of a facade. Because when you think about it, how do we discriminate against people? We do it through bullying, through unfair promotional tactics, by finding ways to make up excuses to fire people.
Right.
But if you create laws that protect people in the workplace and not discriminate, so you have to do both, then you can't bully people in the workplace or fire them wrongly. So you have to do things like the Equality Act, but you also need to do more encompassing economic justice policies. It's a little bit of both, is what I tell people.
But the frustrating thing is DEI policies benefit not only the workers, but the corporations themselves.
Absolutely.
If you have employees that are worried about, I don't have access to health care for my kids and my kid is at home sick, or I don't have the ability to take time off work because my partner is in the hospital, that worker is not being productive in the office. They might be sitting there for 8 hours to collect their paycheck, but they are not focusing on the job that you hired them to do. DEI is meant to protect both the workers and the corporation.
And when I think about some of the companies, the workers and the workers as well as the people that are purchasing the items, let's not only think about the people that are selling to those stores. You know, and I know there's a lot of people like Tabitha Brown who is in Target because of DEI. That a lot of people are now talking about stop going to the store because of them pulling out of DEI.
They did that last year as well. There was certain people at Target that were doing Pride merchandise that they started pulling the rug out from under them last minute. It was terrible to watch that.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's deep dive into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Paul Thomas. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Going to Winter Party Festival. Here are the pictures to help you decide yes. South Florida is turning up the heat this winter. We are showing you pictures from the National LGBTQ Task Force Winter Party Festival. It is back for its 32nd year, bringing thousands of queer people and allies to my beloved Miami Beach from February 26th to March 4th, 2025. This year's theme is all about dance, so expect sexy swimsuits, spicy moves, and electrifying beats. More than just a sizzling circuit party, the Winter Party Festival raises crucial funds for LGBTQ organizations at a time when support is needed most. It is 2020. In 2024, over 10,000 attendees from around the world danced the week away, celebrating queer joy and community. And if you need a reason to go, just take a look at these stunning photos from last year. Get ready to dance, party, and make unforgettable memories. For tickets and details, visit winterparty.com. You know, it's so much fun. I always get caught up in, because of what I do, the part that they're raising money and the organizations that it can help. But really, when I go, I usually go to the beach party. And there's something about being out there on the beach with the wind blowing and the ocean is right there and the music is playing and everyone is happy and everyone is like just having a good time. People from all over the world. I walk around, I run into friends from all over the world I didn't even know was in town. It's really pretty amazing. If you haven't been, you should probably check it out just to experience that kind of, I don't know, for me, it's just like this freedom. Like you're in this space, people are just there to have a great time. They do a great job.
I think that's so important. Thank you so much. The National LGBTQ Task Force, the organization I work for, puts on Winter Party Festival. It is our 32nd festival. And you're absolutely right. Not only is it a place for us to go be free and be ourselves, it's a place for us to find joy. Queer joy is an act of resistance, especially now at this time, when they are coming for us, when they are trying to make us scared all the time, when they are trying to make us fearful to live our lives and be ourselves, be you authentically. Just coming out to party, show community, show love for one another is so important. We just did our big conference in Las Vegas, our Creating Change conference. Our theme for that was resistance, power, and love. And our theme for Winter Party is Dance Revolution. We are coming together. Coming together in love and joy is a revolution, is resistance. That is how our community has made progress over 50 years. Yeah. And to your point, most people don't understand that Winter Party Festival is actually a very important fundraiser, not only for the task force, but for the local South Florida LGBTQ community. Since the task force has been running Winter Party, we have donated over $3.8 million back directly to LGBT organizations funding the community through our partnership at the LGBTQ Equity Fund with Our Fund Foundation and the Miami Foundation. It's a really fun time, and it's a good cause. Yeah. We like to say we party with a purpose.
Yeah, the Winter Party's been around, what they say, it's going to be the
32nd year. As old as I am.
So when you think from the beginning, the Winter Party, from the beginning, it's been really working in the guise of a party, but really to support the community. 32 years ago, and AIDS was around, and people were just needing we needed money. Like, we needed money, and this festival came along. People supported it. It really supported the community. It's nice to see 32 years later, it's still doing that.
No, it's so important to have a way to fundraise, because, as we were talking about earlier, we can't trust big donors right now. You need to fund your own. You have to fund your own liberation, people. Okay, right. Even Lenin required his people to pay dues, and we have to do that now ourselves. But also, I've been accused of maybe working for the task force in the past, and. One of the things I always enjoyed was I got to get all these really hot guy pictures and then send them to hotspots and a few other places for Winter Party. And it's always fun to see the pictures and what's going on there. So it just sounds like you've been doing a great job with it, Ryan, and everyone at the task force. So good luck with this year.
I mean, it's amazing. Now, I didn't even realize it, that you said that you fund our fund, and our fund funds our organization. So thank you. Exactly. And I think I'm going to go this year, even though I have gone ever since 1997. I've gone a few times, maybe like 5 or 6 times.
They allowed you in when you were 7?
Yeah.
Oh,
They
don't
didn't
tell
card
anyone.
me. They didn't card me. But I think this year I'm just going to go to see that gentleman over there in his Speedo. Oh my goodness. Well, this is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire country. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up trans rights. It's now official. Donald Trump and America bans transgender athletes. President Donald Trump signed an executive order Wednesday restricting transgender participation in women's sports, fulfilling a campaign threat and escalating his broader rollback of LGBTQ rights. Titled "No Men in Women's Sports," the order directs immediate enforcement against schools and athletic associations, despite executive orders not being laws. The administration expects the NCAA to change its policies accordingly. LGBTQ advocates, including the Human Rights Campaign's president, Kelly Robinson, condemned the order, saying, quote, "We all want sports to be fair, students to be safe, and young people to have the opportunity to participate alongside their peers, but an attempted blanket ban deprives kids of those things," end quote. According to legal experts, swift challenges as executive orders cannot override civil rights protections without congressional approval. Critics point out that Trump is actually legislating through executive order, which may not be even constitutionally legal. But because of GOP's control of both the House and Senate, the process of legal lawsuits in the court is a slow process to rebuke Trump's executive orders like this one. But one thing is very clear. The fight for inclusion and fairness in sports is far from over. You know, at Options, I used to have to write about the different anti-trans bills dealing with sports. And I would always try to remind viewers that, you know, when they're trying to talk about trans sports, it's because they are trying to dodge what's actually happening in the trans experience. They don't want to talk about trans murders. They don't want to talk about the poverty rate. They don't want to talk about what trans people are going through. But at the same time, they're also trying to prey on people's ideas of fairness. But when you actually spend just 2 seconds to look at sports inclusion, gender has almost nothing to do with who should be going against who in sports. And this sort of vile stuff they've been doing for years. And it just drives me crazy. You know, groups like the Alliance Defending Freedom helped write Project 2025. Right. And they went all after trans kids. And they've been doing it for years. I once wrote in The Advocate about how they would go after trans kindergartners, 6-year-olds, because they know that they would be easy targets because most political groups wouldn't go and try and defend those kids. So this has always disgusts me, and whenever I see this, it makes my blood boil, quite frankly.
Makes my blood boil. I teach sometimes at Barry University. It's through the sports department, sports management, and I talk to the college students, the graduate students. We talk about this issue all the time. It's encouraging to me that most of the younger people, 99% of the younger people are like, what is the big deal? Like, but for the President of the United States, with all the things that a President of the United States has to do, to spend so much time and energy on the trans community, on trying to figure out different ways to harm people of the trans experience is just blowing my mind. Before we came here today, I was looking up some numbers. There are 12 NCAA trans athletes right now. 12. So that executive order is to affect 12 people. How does anyone who runs any type of organization have time to go out of their way to figure out how to harm 12 people?
It just shows.
Not with the correct information, not with correct science, not with just to hurt people. It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
I mean, it just tells you, it just shows you that when you talk about, like you said, 12 people, and of all of the millions and millions of people there are, and the very select amount of trans children that make up less than 1% of the population, that you're so concerned about that. There isn't even any discrepancies where trans children are just winning all of these awards and trophies and things over just regular kids.
Yeah. It's never happened. They've been
It's
playing.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
a ridiculous conversation.
They've been playing in sports in the state of Florida for more than 10 years. Nobody knew. The politicians have made it a hot button issue, but there was never a complaint. Nobody's lost out on a scholarship. Nobody's kid didn't get an award. Like, it hasn't affected anything. Just more kids had the opportunity to play.
These bans also affect cis kids. You know, in Rhode Island, where option that bill that they fortunately didn't go very far with, it was written to allow schools to check students' internal and external sex organs. Yeah. By the way, Rhode Island at the same time had just had to arrest a coach for doing naked fat checks of his boy. So I was like, what the heck are you all doing? And we've been seeing something similar has been happening in other states where they're trying to force girls to prove if they're girls or not. I'm like, anti-trans sports stuff is really just attempts for cis men to try and go after young women. And we need to talk about it like that too more.
You know, when I was a tennis player when I was in school. When I was in high school, I was a tennis player. There was a brother and sister from another school that were very, very good. The sister was so good that they let her play on the boys' team. And she played number 1 on the boys' team. And she went undefeated and beat all the other boys, right? She played singles and tennis. Not one piece. Nobody complained. Nobody said, oh, it's not fair. Nobody said anything. She just happened to be good. Like the examples that they try to pull out of nowhere, they don't make any sense. Last year they tried to talk about the swimmer. That swimmer was not the number 1 swimmer on the college team for Penn State. She just happened to win one swimming meet, but she was like number 9th on the team. She wasn't the best. It's like you're making up stories that don't matter. How do you have... I don't understand. Outside of just trying to feed that hate to people who feed off of hate, like, I don't understand this whole thing at all.
I'm sorry, no, after you.
No, go ahead.
It's a play out of the Jim Crow playbook. They're playing on people's ignorance and their fear. During Jim Crow times, you know, there was the myth of the black man that wanted to go after the white woman, and it was playing on the fear around sexual assault, around violence against the vulnerable white woman. It's the same playbook they're using for their attacks on trans bathroom bans. This false myth fear of trans people wanting to go into a bathroom to prey on women or prey on children, and we have to protect them. It's no different than, you know, this ban, right? You know, what they're trying to do right now. It's
using the hatred to try to control their base.
Trying to control their base, but also trying to create the permission structure for violence against a marginalized community. Yeah. You know, the whole myth of a black man going after a white woman during Jim Crow was the underpinning for allowing lynchings and a lot of violence. That's exactly what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to demonize and villainize the trans community.
And I truly believe that people fear what they don't understand.
Amen.
There's so many people that are dealing and seeing and working with trans people every single day, and they have no idea that they already know someone that's trans. And I think that all of this LGBTQ legislation specifically geared toward the transgender community is trying to put us back in a box somewhere. I think for a long time we were able to be that little dirty secret that was swept under the rug somewhere. But when you go back to, I guess, 2008, or when you first started seeing people like Laverne Cox out, there are so many trans people that are out there prospering in politics and entertainment and teachers, and firemen, and lawyers, and all type of men. And I think that it scares people.
It scares people because they keep pushing these false narratives to scare people. It wouldn't scare people if you educated people instead. Like, we could do this same thing a totally different way and make it inclusive and make it about love and make it about acceptance and make it about learning more about a person instead of just hating people that you don't even know.
But the question is, do they want to be educated? You keep saying we can educate them, but do they really want to be educated, or do they want to stay in their small little box?
Well, they're getting educated now. They're just getting incorrect information. I mean, they're getting information one way or the other, but what are you receiving? And like, what kind of person is it making you? Is it making you a better person when your little kid decides that they're they want to come to you and talk about possibility of being trans. Do you want to be the parent that can talk to your child, that can understand, that can know where to go for resources, that can know where to go for help, that's open to conversation? Or do you want to be the parent that rejects your child? Do you want to be that parent? I don't understand.
I can't speak for all parents of trans kids, but when I would do that research of the different times that ADF would target trans kids, the parents, when they would speak in front of school meetings or to reports, it was always, they just were trying to help their child succeed, and they couldn't, and the idea of these institutions trying to come and attack their child. So I put more faith in parents than that, but maybe it's unfounded. It's more, as you were alluding earlier, they're trying to dehumanize trans people because if you actually talk about the trans experience, it's not a weird, bizarre conversation that the right's trying to make it. It's the actual human stories.
It's just like
if I could leave on one other thing also, they're not, all LGBT people are facing an unusual threat right now. Mm-hmm. Lesbian, gays, bisexuals, but in particular the transgender community. And we can't treat the attacks that are happening on the rest of us the same as the level of vitriol that is going after the trans community.
It's amazing.
And they're trying to divide us. Look at what the State Department did. The State Department took the transgender, intersex, and asexual off of the website, but left lesbian, gay, and bisexual.
Yeah.
It is to create a division among us. Mm-hmm. To say, well, if we don't defend the trans community, maybe the rest of us are going to be safe, and we cannot fall.
We can never, ever do anything like that. That's just terrific.
Remember, if they'll come for one, they'll come for all.
Amen.
Absolutely.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire country. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Adrianna Tender, and let's queer up travel. Highwaymen art exhibit captures Florida's disappearing beauty through February 23rd. Visit Lauderdale invites you to a disappearing landscape, Art of the Florida Highwaymen, running through February 23rd at Flamingo Gardens. This evocative exhibit celebrates the self-taught Black artists who painted Florida's landscapes in the mid-20th century. Their vivid depictions of coastal views, wetlands, and golden sunsets reflect a rapidly changing environment. Known for their bold colors and fluid brushstrokes, the Highwaymen's work captures both the beauty and transformation of Florida's natural scenery. Tickets are $24 for adults, $17 for children, with a 20% discount for seniors. The exhibit is open daily from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. For more details, go to visitlauderdale.com. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of LGBTQ and ally community.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Adrianna Tender, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters and anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Alex Morash, Ryan Hurst, and Paul Thomas. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, be transformative, and queer. Good night.